Affiliates across Ghana, including Lolonyo FM in Hohoi and worldwide at myjoyonline.com. Coming up, a parliament that made history yet failed to provide adequate oversight over the executive, the assessment of the majority and minority leaders on the last day of the 7th parliament.
In terms of sheer numbers, we're able to pass over 200 and I think 30 bills came before us.
We are voting a 1 billion Ghana cedis or $684 million for a Paluku hydroelectric project. We subjected to only a 24-hour scrutiny.
We are live in Parliament as we look forward to the dissolution later today. Also coming up,
we have to talk about galamsey. We who are leaders owe it to the country to take the subject out of the party political arena and have an honest conversation.
President Akufo-Addo's call for an honest conversation about galamsey devoid of politics is beginning to generate reactions, with some calling for a complete overhaul of the team tax to deal with it.
So the conversation to have is to go back to the Lands Act and then look at what aspects assures us of proper ownership of land rights.
We'll take you live to Kumasi, where 5 Chinese nationals have been arrested in renewed fight against illegal mining. We'll also go live to the Upper East region, where police have arrested 7 persons in connection with shootings and torching of houses in a land dispute between Doba and Kandinga. Also, tertiary schools roll out strict enforcement of COVID-19 protocols, with students facing expulsion for non-compliance.
If you are caught twice, that means that it is no longer a mistake or an error or forgetfulness. So we will make sure that you go home.
We have details of a disinfection exercise which is underway ahead of reopening of schools. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm Bernice Abubedu-Lansa. Thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. The details now. A parliament that made history yet failed to provide adequate oversight over the executive. This is the assessment of the majority and minority leaders barely 24 hours to expiration of the 7th parliament. The 2 leaders have today been addressing a news conference on their stewardship over the last 4 years. Majority leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu says the 7th parliament made history by passing more than 100 bills.
This parliament, the 7th parliament, has been the busiest. It's been the busiest because, in terms of sheer numbers, we're able to pass over 200 and I think 30 bills came before us, out of which we're able to transact business and give pass about 296 of the bills that came before us. No parliament has crossed the barrier of 100 bills. Never. This parliament has been able to do this. The average for the parliaments between 70 and 80, over 4 years, this parliament was able to do this. And we're able to do that, thankfully, because of the processes and procedures and the structures that we put in place.
That's Majority Leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu. His colleague, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, agrees but has some concerns about the work done by the 7th Parliament.
A number of loan agreements were passed by governments. Again, many of it not subjected to proper, thorough scrutiny. We are voting a 1 billion Ghana cedis or $684 million for a Paluku hydroelectric project, and we subjected to only a 24-hour scrutiny by the Committee of Finance and
Now, there are a lot of events happening in Parliament as MPs wrap up activities of the 7th Parliament. Let's take you live now. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Abukugakwe joins us with more. Joseph, run us through the key issues that have come up relating to the 7th Parliament. Hello, Joseph. Well, we don't seem to have Joseph on the line. Hello, Joseph, can you hear me?
Bernice, I can hear you. Can you hear me? All right,
great. Kindly run us through the key issues that have come up relating to the 7th Parliament.
A number of issues have come up here. The majority leader, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, has, for example, been noting that this Parliament has been one of the most productive in Ghana's history. He says over 230 bills came to the House for approval. Out of it, about 196 of them have been passed, as compared to what has been the records of various other parliaments, which ended up passing between 70 and 80 bills by the end of their tenure. And he attributed this, what he says, was the resilience by a number of MPs. He mentioned them by name. Inus Hussaini, the outgoing MP for Tamale Central, Ben Abdallah, the chairman of the Legal Affairs Committee, Mahama Shaibu of Daboya, and Joseph Yelechire of Wa West, who he says their works have deeply impacted the work of Parliament. He's also been indicating that a number of bills that have been outstanding for several years, including the Companies Code, the Right to Information Bill, all got passed in the course of this particular sitting of Parliament, which he says is very much remarkable and should be praised.
Joseph, we know the issue of ex gratia came up. What have the two leaders been saying?
So the explanation coming from both the majority leader and the minority leader is that this is something that is constitutionally required, and that the Constitution makes specific provisions for the payment of ex gratia packages and, for that matter, gratuity for members of Parliament. And so he says those who are criticizing this do not know what they are saying. He explained that the processes are ongoing and they look forward to getting it done as soon as possible. In fact, I've been looking at the other paper as is outlined, the items that have to be dealt with today before the House eventually dissolves. And it's item number 5C, the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole on the presidential emolument for Article 71 of its orders. And so the indication is that will be dealt with before the House eventually dissolves.
Before you leave us, Joseph, during that news conference, you asked a question about issues that characterize the 7th Parliament. You cited examples of the allegation of bribery in the appointment of Mr. Boakye Jakon as Energy Minister. You also spoke about the cash for seats scandal and how this relates to discipline in the House. What response were you given by the leaders?
Mr. Chairman Sabons made the point that when it comes to the bribery scandal, despite the claims, the House, after the work of an investigative committee, concluded there was nothing like that. So he found no basis for which any such issue should come up. But he went on to address the general issue of discipline as far as MPs are concerned. And he made the point that, particularly when it comes to ensuring that MPs attend to the sitting of the House, that's something they would take more seriously going forward, so that business can be done both at the level of the committee.
Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, the parliamentary correspondent, and it's barely 24 hours for this 7th Parliament to be dissolved to usher in the 8th. The first item on the agenda will be the election of Speaker, and this promises to be competitive, with the two sides of the House having 137 seats each. The NPP is fielding current Speaker Professor Michael Quay, and the NDC is presenting Deputy Speaker Albin Gbagbin as its candidate. Here's a brief report on the two men seeking the votes of the MPs.
At age 63, Mr. Gbagbin has spent nearly half of his lifetime serving as a legislator representing the interests of Nadoli Kalyu residents. He is a lawyer by training and also holds an executive master's in governance and leadership. He has held a number of positions in Parliament, including Deputy Speaker and Majority Leader. He is currently the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. He opted not to seek re-election in the just-ended parliamentary elections. Professor Aaron Michael Quay comes into the contest as the current Speaker of Parliament. At the age of 76, he is hoping to get the most votes to preside over Parliament for the next 4 years. He has in the past served as the Member of Parliament for Dome Kwabenya. He is a lawyer and political scientist and worked in different ministerial roles during the tenure of former President John Agyekum Kufuor.
And that was a brief report on the two men seeking to be Speaker of the next Parliament. My colleague, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, is still with us. Joseph, did the vote come up during the news conference, and how is it shaping up?
Funny enough, both the leader of the NDC, Harnite, and of
Joseph, sorry, we are losing you. Can you reposition yourself? Hello, Joseph?
Dennis, so both Chairman Sabuntu and Harun Idrisu are claiming the leadership as far as the next Parliament is concerned. Mr. Idrisu insists that the NPP cannot vote itself out of such, but Mr. Chairman Sabuntu says, plus the former MP. And every MP needs to belong to one of two caucuses, and once the former MP takes with them, then they will have the majority. So it looks like we can't have it resolved even between now and midnight, when eventually the next parliament begins sitting, when it would eventually be resolved.
And Joseph, you just mentioned the former MP. We understand the NDC has reached out to him. Are you able to confirm that?
In fact, the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu himself, confirmed that they've made overtures to him as part of efforts to get him to support their nominee for the speakership position, Alban Bagman, ahead of Reverend Professor Michael Okoye. And he referenced what he says was injustice of a choice that Reverend Okoye did to the former MP by taking him out. And he's hopeful that he would back going forward.
And Joseph, voting for the speaker, we understand, will happen in secret. But do we know how exactly it will happen?
So the standing orders is very categorical on how the process should look like. And they make the point that when the time is up, a proposed speaker's name is mentioned and seconded, MPs will be called one after the other and be given papers on which they'll write the names of their preferred candidates. After that, the officials of the clerk's office will count, and then the names of whoever gets the majority will then, the name of that person is pronounced as the speaker. And it's categorical that the voting has to be secret. You write the name on the paper and go drop it in a box without identifying who you are. And you would only know the outcome after the counting is done.
We'll leave it here for now. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. We are heavy on Parliament today because, as you may be aware, it will dissolve around midnight today to usher in the 8th Parliament. So my colleague MFR Pau is still it's in Parliament for us. Later tonight, we'll have Evans Mensah, head of our political desk, and Winston Amor, deputy head, also bringing us coverage from Parliament and bring us proceedings as they happen. Let's go to MFR Pau now. And she's been engaging both sides of the House on which side considers itself to be the majority. It was an interesting conversation you had, the MFR, with Apenyo Marking and James Klucha-Aveji.
Of course, Benes, and that has not been concluded as we speak, but most of both sides still agree. At least one thing they agreed on at the end of it all was the fact that the speaker keeps on that, and that the independent cannot focus.
Too bad, MFR. Our line is quite terrible. I'll just give you about 30 seconds to try and position yourself so we can come back to you. But let's hear Apenyo Marking, who has been selected to be deputy leader for the NPP side of the House. You can understand why I can't say majority or minority is quite dicey at the moment. But let's hear him now.
An independent MP or independent MPs will fall in the category of party or parties. And if those independent MPs decide to join any group having the largest number, and in such a process, that group gains a numerical advantage over the other, straight away, that group forms the majority. But look here, these matters will be settled in the fullness of time. So we don't need to break our shoulders over this.
So you maintain your right side, you'd say?
To the extent that the MP-elect for Fomena has joined our caucus or has elected to caucus with the MPP, his inclusion on our side sits within the remit of the largest party and parties or a party. That construction will then mean that we are more than them. And if that is the case, then we are to sit on the right of Mr. Speaker.
That's Alexander Apenyo Marking, MFR, and you spoke to him, and you were in the middle of the two. I mean, Alexander Apenyo Marking and Klucha-Aveji. What was Mr. Aveji's reaction to this submission from Apenyo Marking?
So this very submission from Apenyo Marking got Mr. Aveji running down from the Job 600 building in his office to come down to intervene. So he disagrees, and he raises the issue of Samia Yaba Nkrumah and what happened in her case. We had to fill an article that settled that discussion, that Samia Yaba was forced to side with the minority back then under Justice Bamford Addo. So that agreement was made. So the decision was that a speaker has to determine which side will be the majority and which side will be the minority. But listen, James Peter, when he came with that intervention.
So when we get to the floor, we'll then know what to do, because now it is not clear. Because I have 137, you have 137. The other person must wait. And after we have determined who is majority or minority, we can work with one side. He has indicated that he work with it, but that will not count in determining whether you have a majority group. But the constitution was clear. Majority side of the house is made up with a party or parties with a majority number.
MFR, that's James Kluter Veggie there. We will be coming to you in the course of the day as you stay in Parliament. But can you tell us what to expect? Hello, MFR?
Yes. Yeah, so we'll be coming to you for the dissolution, like you said, if I heard you right, because next week is a bit cracky here. So throughout the day, we'll be with you as we usher out the 7th Parliament. There will be the last sitting or the last meeting of the 4th session of the 7th Parliament. It will be ending today. By midnight, it kicks in. The 8th Parliament starts. We are with you throughout that period. My colleague Daniel Dazi will take over from me. Then at 10 p.m., Evans Spencer and Winston Amwa will take you through the resolution and the decision of who becomes the Speaker, Second Deputy Speaker, and the First Deputy Speaker. And then we'll also be bringing you the inauguration of the President-elect. You ought to stay with us here on the Joy News channel, Joy FM by joyonline.com, and all our affiliates across the country.
MFR Pau, then. This is the Midday News, and I'm sitting in for her. I'm Benes Abubeidulan. So we'll come back with more. When I come back, President Akufo-Addo's call for an honest conversation about Galamsey, devoid of politics, is beginning to generate reactions, with some calling for a complete overhaul of the system that has been put up to fight it.
So the conversation to have is to go back to the Lands Act and then look at what aspects assures us of proper ownership of land rights.
Ghana celebrates another democratic success story of the Fourth Republic after elections 2020 and prepares for the inauguration of elected representatives and government with the following events. At 10 a.m. on 5th January 2021, His Excellency President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo will deliver his end-of-term State of the Nation address before the 7th Parliament of the Fourth Republic. On the stroke of midnight on 6th January 2021, the 7th Parliament would stand dissolved. There will be the selection of Speaker of Parliament and 2 Deputy Speakers, paving way for the inauguration of the 8th Parliament of the Fourth Republic. On 7th January 2021, President-elect Nana Addo Akufo-Addo will take the oath of office and be sworn in as President, with Vice President-elect Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to begin their second term in office. This event will take place in the precinct of Parliament House at 10 a.m. Attendance is strictly by invitation. These landmark events to strengthen Ghana's democracy will be live on this network and other digital online platforms. Long live the Republic of Ghana.
Thank you for staying here on the Midday News with me, Benes Abubeidulan. So now, President Akufo-Addo's call for an honest conversation about illegal mining, popularly called Galamsey, has triggered interesting reactions from civil society organizations and political opponents. The president's creation of a task force to deal with the Kanka in his first term did not achieve the required results. The failure to deal with the menace compelled the president to call for a national dialogue devoid of partisan politics to deal with it when he addressed Parliament on Tuesday.
Should we allow or not allow Galamsey? The illegal mining that leads to the pollution of our water bodies and the devastation of our landscape. As I've said often, the Almighty having blessed us with considerable deposits of precious minerals, there would always be mining in Ghana. Indeed, the problem we have is the use of modern technology that leads to the illegal mining methods, posing serious dangers to our water bodies and the health of our environment. The pollution of our rivers and water resources has been so acute on occasion that the Ghana Water Company is unable to afford the distilling of water to make for safe drinking. We have to talk about Galamsey. We who are leaders owe it to the country to take the subject out of the party political arena and have an honest conversation about this menace to our future.
President Akufo-Addo, while speaking on PM Express with Evans Mensah Tuesday night, Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah said government interest in fighting illegal mining made President Akufo-Addo a subject of victimization at some point.
The point the president is making is that we have to come around the table as leaders and have a conversation. Now, this is not because it fits my party or it could give my party political gain. Therefore, let me seek to make partisan political capital out of it. Because if we do that, in the end, we collectively lose. That's the conversation the president is asking us to have. Because he's taken his presidency on the line. He has taken bullets for it. He's lost parliamentary seats. He's lost the presidential margin, at least some hundreds of thousands of votes because of it. But that and a few other things require a national consensus devoid of politics. And that is where we also need, for example, our friends in civil society, our friends in the media, not just to be quiet or to treat it as a challenge that one person has to solve, but to be quick to call it out and say, guys, you may be on the other side of the political divide looking for power, but you cannot say this to Galamsey operators just because you want them to vote for you. You are undermining the national fight. And Mr. President, these people in your party who are involved in this enterprise is not good enough for us to tinker with it. And that's what the president is inviting all of us to. When he says, for example, on the night of his election and today, that the people of Ghana want us to work together. They don't just want us sitting around the table. They want us speaking a new truth to some of the challenges that we face.
While speaking on the same show, Member of Parliament's Lands and Forestry Committee, Alhassan Suhini, who's also NDC MP for Tamale North, said the president's failure to win the fight was because he didn't plan well and didn't listen to advice.
Because you see, if there was a clear plan, if there was clear, if it was carefully thought through, the president wouldn't be asking us again if we should debate what he had already decided on to ban and to deal with. And to put his presidency on the line if he failed. I mean, clearly, that is an admission that the thinking that went into it could have been better. Now, the question I will want to ask is, what has the president, leadership is everything, done to those people who we all know and agree may have internally sabotaged this fight that the whole nation, including the media, was engaging?
While speaking on the same program, the CDD's Kojo Asante admitted the call for a dialogue is important.
I think the president is right that, yes, we have to have a conversation about it. But I think the conversation is not whether to allow Galamsey or not to allow Galamsey. About allowing small-scale mining as against, Galamsey, which is illegal small-scale mining. And that is where the conversation has to be. But even beyond that, it's a bigger conversation about the redistribution of mining resources to communities.
Meanwhile, Imani Africa's President Franklin Kudjo suggests government should pay attention to the process of acquiring mining licenses as a starting point.
We've not had that proper conversation as to who owns mineral rights when it's found on the land. Well, some say it belongs to the state. But before you go through 14 steps to get a mining license, before you come back, someone else is mining on your field. Now, all of these are the reasons why we have all this Galamsey stuff. In fact, to blame modern technology, as the president did in his speech, was another aberration on the issues of land use economics.
You heard that Franklin Kudjo, president of Imani Africa, and 5 Chinese nationals have been arrested in the Amansia Central District of the Ashanti region for their alleged involvement in illegal mining activities. The Sustainable Environment Task Force at the Ministry of Environment also seized 5 excavators in its move to save areas degraded by illegal mining. A swoop on the area revealed huge destruction to forest resources and in some cases public property. Love FM's Erastus Saridonko joined the task force and reports.
The forest reserves, once cleared of illegal mining activities, have seen further destruction by miners claiming to have requisite permits. Open pits, unclaimed mine environment lie dangerously in plain sight in the Odumto and surrounding communities of the Amansia Central District. This site, mined illegally by these Chinese nationals and their Ghanaian collaborators, has destroyed the water bodies, creating this huge pond close to the road that links these towns. Electricity supply to surrounding towns has constantly been affected due to constant excavation of the land close to these high-tension electric poles. The Sustainable Environment Task Force arrested 5 Chinese nationals and seized 5 excavators. Mr. Chum Ajekum is leader of the team.
Chinese for inum and excavator inum.
We have arrested 5 Chinese nationals and seized 5 excavators. They have destroyed cocoa farms, the roads here, and disrupted electricity supply here. We are not against mining, but if you do proper mining, we will support you.
We entered Kobro, which is part of the Apamprama Forest Reserve.
3 years ago, this was a thick forest. We came here with the then Inter-Ministerial Task Force on Illegal Mining to flush out some Chinese nationals and their Ghanaian collaborators who had then started to eat into this forest. Today, we come here 3 years after, trees felled with reckless abandon. Now we find a more emboldened illegal miners protected by military men with sponsorship from faceless people.
Confrontations ensued between 2 soldiers protecting these Chinese miners in the forest reserve.
Erastus Asari Donko with that report. Away from the Ashanti region, police in the Upper East region have arrested 7 persons in connection with shootings and torching of homes in a land dispute between Doba and Kandiga. The dispute has been ongoing for almost a year, with the latest attacks occurring Tuesday afternoon, though no deaths or injuries occurred. In this attack, police say 2 single-barrel guns have been retrieved. Joining us on the line is Upper East Regional Minister Tangoba Abayage for more on this. Thank you, ma'am, for your time this afternoon. Just give us a brief background to this conflict.
Well, it's a conflict of a piece of land. It's both claiming the case is in court.
Hello, ma'am. Sorry I have to cut in. It's quite difficult hearing what you're saying. Could you please lift your voice?
I'm actually getting the feedback from your people. But what I'm saying is that, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What I'm saying is that it's actually a piece of land. The land is in the 2 communities. And the case is in court. There's a junction over development on the piece of land. So the renewed clashes last year resulted from the Kandiga community building police stations and chief's compound.
All right, sorry, the line is quite bad, so we'll have to wrap this up quickly over here. But we understand that there is some mediation to solve the problem. Why is that not achieving results?
Well, it will be difficult for me to know why, because we've set the mediation there to solve the problem. The regional peace council is there. We have security on the floor. We ourselves as Rexef, we have been meeting the 2 communities and their chiefs. But once in a while, a conflict situation, once in a while, we just decide that our intervention is not enough, so they will take it at the top.
Too bad the line is terrible, but that was the Upper East Regional Minister Tangoba Abayage there. Thank you for joining the program, ma'am. Apologies, we can't bring you that story on tertiary schools rolling out strict enforcement of COVID-19 protocols with students facing expulsion for non-compliance. But Maps is here with Showbiz.
And in Showbiz, Bernice, do you know the song?
Yeah. I love Chris Rich.
It's the Kumerica song?
It's the Kumerica song. So, Ghanaian drill musician Yatog is set to release a remix to the smash hit single with guess who? Stormzy.
Wow, that's big.
And everybody's excited about it. They are currently in Kumase and they're shooting the music video. So we can't wait. We know that Kwesi Arthur is also featured and a lot more people are featured on this song. So we can't wait to hear that remix.
Right, thank you very much, Maps, there with Showbiz. And that's how we end this edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM with me, Benes Abubedulansa. We really appreciate that you can make time to join us. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Don't forget, we've got special coverage for you as Parliament prepares to be dissolved and usher in the new one, as well as the inauguration of President-elect Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Thanks for choosing us once again. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Why you want